Do we have any Severance fans in the house? Okay, no pressure. There we go. Are we innies or outies right now? Because I sort of feel like this is a bit of both. It is the weekend, but it's deadline. So we're talking about Lumon Industries, obviously, headed up by Adam Scott's Mark Scout, where employees undergo a severance procedure that surgically divides their memories between their work and personal lives. Created by Dan Erickson and directed by Ben Stiller, this experiment starts to unravel in season 2. Just finished on Apple TV+, Mark and his friends learn the consequences of trifling with the severance barrier, leading them further down a path of woe. Joining us today to figure out the meaning of it all are 3 of the show's unsung heroes: casting director Rachel Tenner, production designer Jeremy Hindle, and composer Theodore Shapiro. Before we undergo our procedure, let's look at a clip. We tried to get the marching band, but they're booked solidly through the rest of the year. So, Rachel, let's start with you. Casting. You've worked with Mr. Ben Stiller for over 10 years. I gather Secret Life of Walter Mitty was where you guys met. When he said, I'm working on the show Severance, do you want to help cast it? First of all, what was your reaction? And what was the sort of conversations that you said, who are the types of people we should be looking for?
Well, I obviously said no when he came to me with the show. No, I'm kidding. Ben has like the best taste, so I know every time he comes with a project, it's going to be something special and different. And we had already done the Escape at Dannemora already at that point. And so, you read the script, and it was so apparent in the writing tonally what it was going to be and how different it was going to be. And I think a lot of the conversations you start having in the beginning is kind of, do we need to have like a big star in it, or can it just be a lot of great actors, or it could be a mix of both and all that. But I just kind of start by making lists and thinking of ideas of who embodies the characters, and then start going over it with him. And we did a lot of auditioning for these roles. We really made it a whole big search because we could, which is a luxury. So
you've said that you wanted people who had a sort of multi-layer quality or depth. How do you find that in an actor?
Well, I think what's important for this show specifically is you really need someone who can handle the humor and the drama. And I think that's, you're always looking for someone, obviously, who's a well-rounded actor in that way, but specifically for this, it was really important because there are so many layers of what they have to do, being the innie, being the outie, playing the drama and the humor in both parts of it, and you just keep looking, and you just keep looking until you find, the right people, and I think, this group came together quite well. And
let's talk about some of the new people in season 2. Yeah. You have Sarah Bock,
right,
who plays Miss Huang. Right. She's the sort of new deputy manager of the
right.
severed floor. Talk about that. What were you looking for there?
I mean, she tonally embodies Severance to me. What that character would be like when it came to us that we were going to need oh my God, I don't remember how old she was at the time, like a 14-year-old who is literally like an adult, but still can also have those childlike qualities. And it seemed so daunting when we started, but then once we got into it and started reading, again, just seeing a ton of people, and then she came to the forefront. She was so amazing in her audition. She just got it, what we were looking for, and knew how to kind of handle the show. I mean, it's nice to have a second season, to get to do that in a second season, so there's a body of work to pull on to understand what the show is. But doesn't always mean someone can do it. And she was really just exceptional.
Mr. Drummond, Daria
Oh,
Olafsson.
Dari, yeah. We met Dari on Walter Mitty. So we were in Iceland, and I actually went to Iceland for a couple months to shoot that part of Walter Mitty with Ben, and he played the drunk pilot, if anyone saw the movie. Yeah, so he was like someone we've loved forever and stayed in touch with, and he's so formidable, as you can see. He's giant. I mean, I'm sure you've seen him like in person.
He's a large man.
He's a large guy, and he's got a great presence, and he's got the menace, but he's also extremely vulnerable and likable and lovely. I don't know if he is that much in this show, but as a person he is, and in other shows he is. And he's just remarkable. He's like very unique. And we just liked how he would bring so much mystery to this show, because not everyone does know him, and it's like a new face, and you don't really know what he's going to be. And then, of course, at the end, there's that big reveal of how much of a badass he could really be. Yeah.
He might not a big name, but you had quite a lot of big names joining in season 2. Gwendolyn Christie, Merritt Weaver, Sandra Bernhardt.
Right.
Is that because they've seen season 1 and they're calling, or you're looking for them? What's the process there?
I think Gwendolyn was a really big fan and had made it really apparent to Ben that she was a big fan of the show. And, sometimes we got a lot of calls like that. They still have to fit the role and the show. We just can't stick somebody, and Teddy and I were just talking about this earlier, like, you just can't stick someone in just for name's sake, You have to really make sure it's authentic to the character. So in this respect, he was perfect, and so that was like a nice luxury. And then Sandra was just, someone we came up with, and Robbie Benson, and just felt like these were faces that we've loved and actors we've known for so long, and felt kind of fresh, still in the same respect, and again, felt like they were really organic to the characters.
Yeah. Let's talk production design, Jeremy.
Hello.
This is a boon for the antique furniture world. This is a show that looks beautiful, and I imagine creating it is probably quite fun. Talk about some of the influence. In the first instance, I understand that John Deere headquarters in Illinois was a sort of center point for you. Is that right?
Yeah, it really was. It's the fact that a tractor company has the most beautiful office probably in America. But it was designed by Eero Saarinen and Kevin Roche. And when I started, I did a lookbook for Ben. When I read the script, there was zero style. Like it read like The Office looking wise. It was budgeted to shoot on location in 2 stages. This season we have 6 full stages, and we have like 100 locations. But it was originally just a very small, interesting. The writing was hilarious. The names, like the words like mammalians, the things that inspire us, they were so interesting. And so when Ben called me, he sent it to me, and I was like, I don't know what to do with this. This is an office. I'm like, can I have 2 days? And I'd never done this, and I put a lookbook together for him, and he flew to LA, and we sat down. And I just pitched him a look that was so big, and the scale and the design, and I'm like, I'll do it if you want to do this. And he was like, yeah.
How close to what you put together do we see?
It's like 90%. Yeah. It really is. Everything was about scale. The fact that people were tiny in big places. It was just how to create this 2 worlds simultaneously. What was amazing was that when I met Ben, I came to New York, and he had Jessica on, this cinematographer who I'd never met, and she was already on. She was before me, which is unheard of. And the 3 of us just clicked, and we fight, we bicker, we're opinionated, there's no egos. Like, none of us have an ego about what it is. We can call at each other's shit on anything. And it's kind of what makes us feel really comfortable. Ben gave us, he demands it, but he let us be really creative. Like, I've never, like this season now, I woke up this morning thinking, because this is my first time talking about season 2, really. And I was like, what is it? And it really is that it's just coming out of me now. Like, it's not as cerebral for me to make the decisions. They are pouring out now. Like, it's just flowing.
And you've got some interesting new sets for season 2. So let's. What was your favourite? You've got places like Mark and Gemma's house. That's a new set. You've got Salt's Neck. What was your?
I mean, there's basically, for me, it's 10 episodes, but there's about 5 films in there that are really epic films. Like the Salt's Neck is its own entity, and that was like a very much just its own. It was trying to create a little bit of different worlds for the first time. I think for me, it was probably mammalians. That was a word that always struck with me, was what is mammalians? Because it's such a funny word. And I kept saying, it's got to be massive. And everyone's like, wow. And like, so I had this inspiration at Storm King, this art installation in upstate. And I went to see it, and I got inspired by these rolling hills that were an art piece. And then we realized we couldn't shoot there, so I said, let's go to golf courses. Find me natural rolling hills, because I don't want to build them that look like Teletubbies on stage. But how will we shoot it? And there's this tent company, this German company, that can make a tent up to 1,000 feet long, 200 feet wide, with no supports down the middle. And I was like, that's the best stage I've ever heard of.
And you had to bring your own goats, presumably.
We had to bring everything. So we ended up going 200, it was the size of a football field, the tent. And everything's covered and lit, and then we built sections of the set. And for me, it was like, to pitch to a TV show to do this is hilarious, because that's not what TV people think about as making, it's just each one of those. The reaction that I see when people look at me when I pitch the ideas is when I know it's working.
Theodore, let's talk about the music.
Yeah.
What are you going for? Evidently, there is a minimal approach to the score here.
I mean, when Ben and I hit on the thematic material for the show, we had been playing around with very different types of sound palettes, but there was this one sort of thematic idea that I thought that Ben was really responding to. This is back in 2020, pre-COVID, when we were just sort of planning to make the show, and I sort of clocked that he was sort of, kind of homing in on this one idea, and he has really good instincts, so we always follow Ben's ideas. And when I got back to LA, after meeting with him, I played it at the piano, and it suddenly sort of had this very strong vibe, sort of reminiscent of the great David Shire score to The Conversation, and it really felt like, okay, this could be the sound of the show. A lot of really spare material, and Ben was really on board with that idea, and we just ran with, this sound that is piano and strings at its core, but with a lot of electronic and other modern materials.
I love the little Easter eggs. You managed to get Lemmy in there. You had Ace of Spades by Motorhead underneath.
That was fun. I can't take credit for the idea. Of course, it was Ben's idea. But yes, in season 1, when Irving is having his dreams about the black goo, we played the Motorhead song Ace of Spades in the style of the score. And then when you see Irving's Audi, he is listening to Motorhead's Ace of Spades. So it's like a clever little Easter egg.
We saw them on the clip there, but let's talk about the season 2 finale. You have the Ballad of Ambrose and Gunnell.
Yes.
What's going on there? How does that?
Well, I mean, when they came up with the marching band idea, I feel like all of a sudden that was 90% of my waking hours. Like we were just constantly on Zooms together talking about how we were going to do this. And throughout the show, there's a couple of musical ideas that I think of as like the religious folk songs of the Egan mythology. And one of them is the Keir hymn, which Miss Cobell sings in season 1. That's one of the tunes that we hear here. And then Ambrose and Gunnell is something that Dan wrote into the script. We don't really yet know exactly what the deal is with Ambrose and Gunnell, but I thought it called for writing a new religious folk song for it. So what you're hearing is this cool drumline style that Ben is really into, with this kind of religious theme of music superimposed on top, and it's a fun blend.
Yeah, it certainly works. Well, look, please give it up for Theodore, Jeremy, and Rachel.